Soulmates are not what you think they are. We've grown up with this magical thinking that we meet the love of our life, they're our soulmate, they're the one we're destined to spend forever with, and we go off and happily ever after. I'm Danny, the ADHD medium. The description that we've been given about our soulmate is incorrect. When you have a soulmate in your soul contract, or sometimes two or three, depends on what you outlined before you incarnated, that person is there to test you and force you to grow. It's not that we meet someone and we're destined to be together and we just live our life happily ever after with them. An actual soulmate, that person is there to test you and help you grow. It's more of a break open your soul type of growth. We don't all have them. We don't all have this kind of catalytic soulmate. Some of us didn't come here to grow in a relationship sense. We came where we have our companion. A companion is what you want. This is somebody that is stable. You can grow with them. You can build a life with. Some people meet them young and build a life together. And yes, we all have our issues and little things we work out, but life is smoother for them within that relationship. It's healthier. When you have a soulmate, this is when you get the soul changing growth that sometimes is very painful, frustrating. You definitely know when you come out on the other side of it that, like, oh yeah, I grew from that. So I've had the pleasure or displeasure of having two soulmates in my soul contracts. The first one was learning not to lose myself within a relationship, learning to set boundaries. The universe will push you out of that situation if you stay too long. So the first soulmate, I stayed way too long. I can be way too loyal and feel obligated to stay. That contract with that person was very fiery. One of the ways you can tell if it's a soulmate versus companion is, especially when you're younger and people describe their partner as somebody that they absolutely cannot live without, like an addiction, instead of somebody that you don't want to live without. There's a big difference in those words and the feelings behind them. My job in this lifetime was to learn not to have to need someone in that way, not to lose myself in the identity of that relationship, and to learn to stand apart. My identity did not depend on that relationship. A little while later, the next soulmate that I had, that was really difficult one. One thing that we can look at is a soulmate will bring out your traumas. So think of when something triggers you really bad. The second soulmate that I chose to incarnate with pushed boundaries for me and triggered a lot of the childhood trauma that I hadn't dealt with. For example, the needing to be heard. When I was a kid, kids were to be seen and not heard. You're a child, you don't get an opinion. And growing up, I felt this constant need, and it reflected in my relationships, that I need you to hear me. I need you to understand me. This was the source I found out of the long texts. I need to be heard. I need to be understood. I need you to just see it from my point of view. If I could just explain it enough, the over explaining, oh my goodness. If I could just explain it enough, you would see my point of view, you would hear me, you would understand me. One of the things that I really took away from that is I don't need you to understand me. I don't need you to hear me. What matters is that I understand me and I hear me. And my value is not based on other people's perception of me or understanding of what makes me upset. I don't have to over explain anything anymore. It's got to the point where learning that lesson has given me a perspective that I was surprised to learn, in terms of I don't react to people like that anymore. They don't need to understand me. I don't need your permission. That's the word I'm looking for. I don't need their permission. This is what I'm doing. This is how I feel, this is how I see it, but I don't need anyone's permission to feel, see, think, or do those things. Those are mine. I have come to a point where I don't care. Those are my values and my thoughts. If you don't like them, then don't hear them. That was a really big lesson for me. I think a lot of you could relate where we overgive, taken strays, as I call it. Everybody else's problems become yours. If you have a lot of that in your life, more than likely that's in your chart and part of the contract of something that you chose before you came here to learn how not to do and how to set those boundaries and how to self regulate. I think quite a few of us lost in childhood where we still live with big emotions and we don't know how to regulate, process, and then discard them. A lot of times I hear somebody made me feel this, or like my daughter one time yelled at me, "You make me." I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. You are in charge of your own self, your own feelings, and I cannot make you do anything. Or I would be like, poof, happy child. You are happy all the time. And, this wouldn't be happening. Teaching her how to self regulate. Why am I mad at this? Why do I feel this way? And so she was on a play date with her cousin, and her cousin was implying that she was trying to help her feel a certain way. And she's going, "You are not responsible for my emotions. I am the only one that can make me happy." Or I was like, oh boy, I'm glad you're taking in the lesson, but the way it comes across, because my mom called and she's like, "You know what she said?" I'm like, "Well, yes, I told her that because realistically, nobody is responsible for how we feel, that only we are." So I was like, "Oh, well, yeah, that makes sense." It just comes out harsh, when it's to another child. So back to the soulmates, these type of lessons are what comes with a soulmate. These type of like soul wrenching, that's a soulmate. And then what comes after, a lot of times, if we stay too long with a soulmate, we can end up sick. A lot of our life starts collapsing around us. You can lose a house, lose a job. The universe is trying to shift you, get you through the lesson and onto the next path where you're supposed to be. It's not a case that you can't be with a soulmate, but the relationship, there's usually like at the end of all the trauma and all of your growth, either they grow with you and the relationship essentially ends, meaning in the way it was. And now you're stepping up into that growth and they grow with you, and then you can continue on and they turn into more of your companion. Or it's time to end that soul contract. I've learned the lessons, I've grown where I needed to grow, and now you can go find a companion. It's really cool to look through and see, okay, how many and where. I've done a lot of like reverse astrology and like, okay, well, where in this did I have this? When they backed it up, you could see the signs of me getting sick and everything else if I had stayed too long, which I did with my first soulmate. If you feel that you're in a frustrating relationship and things aren't going your way, I would take the time to sit down and look, okay, why am I triggered by this? Why do I feel this way? When I am feeling this, what back here do I remember? What is the trauma that I need to heal? Why am I allowing this behavior? What am I afraid of? And then learning to self regulate instead of just reacting. One thing that you can do is name 3 objects that you see around you and breathe. You can do that in your head. You don't have to allow anybody to see you do that. Take a deep breath and pause before you react. So, all of this to say, the next time someone says they want to meet their soulmate, I would ask, are you sure? Are you ready for that kind of growth? Let me know about your experiences. What kind of soulmates do you have in your life? Do you have one to build a life with and keep steady? Or do you have a catalysmic alchemy type of a soulmate? I'd really love to hear it. Thank you for spending this time with me, and I will see you next time.